What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we've got something very new, very different, very weird, and I'm not 100% sure very good that we need to have a little bit of a chat about. You see, I want to say yesterday. Yeah, New Year's Day, first day of the year. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, New Year's Day, wasn't doing any work, but I'm right back today to share it with you. One Piece, the official Twitter, went and shared this event card. Now, for what it's worth, it's actually a pretty decent card. We'll get to what it does in a moment. But what is really, really interesting here is not that we've got a new event card, although it is kind of interesting. Like I say, it's pretty good. We'll have a look in a moment. What's really interesting about this particular event card is that it has an alternate art. We've never seen that before. And this represents a big change. And look, it's one of these things where, as it stands at the moment, we've only got one. There is one alternate event card. That is all there is. That is all they've done. But does anybody actually believe for a second that this is where it's going to finish? Does anyone actually genuinely believe that this is going to be the only alternate art event card that they ever do? Maybe it is. Maybe this is going to be it. Maybe this is the one alternate art event card and it's a weird anomaly and it's going to go down as one of those curiosities of the game as the game gets older. But I think we've got to say that it's far more likely that what's actually going to happen is that now alternate art event cards are a thing. And I'm honestly not sure how I feel about that. Because, well, alternate art leaders are a thing. And alternate art characters are a thing. And they're cards that tend to get a whole bunch of value. They're the cards that we tend to be really looking forward to pulling from our boxes. And is anybody going to be pulling an alternate art event card and going, oh my goodness, did you see my pull? I got so lucky. Or is it instead going to be a case of people are pulling these and everyone's going to go, oh mate, I'm so sorry. That's not the best box I've ever seen. And I suppose it largely is going to depend on the event card. Because, I mean, if we go over to TCG Play and we have a little bit of a look, let's have a look at leader cards, for instance. Because this is one that's getting kind of interesting as it stands at the moment. We can see that the most expensive leader around, it's obviously alternate art Roanoa Zoro. That's the best leader around. It's got a market price of like $150. That's quite a lot. And it is quite a lot, incidentally. But then the problem is we can go and have a look at some other leaders, and I think it's fair to say they are not on the same level, I think is a polite way to put it. So, like King, for instance, has a market price of like $30. Those cards are not even, ladies and gentlemen. Putting something like a Roanoa Zoro, much, much better than pulling something like a King. And we can actually do the same thing with character cards here. And actually, we can do the same thing in terms of Roanoa Zoro. Roanoa Zoro's got a market price of like $135. We can look at Nami. That's got a market price of $185. Really quite expensive cards. But then we can have a look at, for instance, the alternate art of Kinemon, as an example, $19. And that's not the same, ladies and gentlemen. That is not the same at all. And that's kind of my point here. Sometimes you can get a character card that is worth a lot, and sometimes you get a character card that really isn't. You can get a leader card that is worth a lot, and a leader card that isn't. And then we get round to these. And you've got to ask the question whether we're going to see a similar thing, but on a wider scale. By which I mean, are we going to see that all of a sudden these event cards as a whole are less valuable? And it's really hard to know, because we've not seen any super rare event card yet. So we can't just turn around and start comparing super rare event cards to regular event cards, which is the kind of thing I would usually try and do in this situation, because that's just not a thing. And when you start comparing regular rares, event rares, and regular rares, they're all worth so little that it's not really a meaningful comparison. So I'm not sure. But I can tell you we can go back to the early days of, for instance, the Pokemon trading card game, where you would get one rare per pack. And as a kid, I did not like getting my rare to be a trainer card. I wanted my rare to be a holo. And if I couldn't get a holo, I wanted a rare Pokemon card. And if I really couldn't get either of those, and I was stuck with a trainer card, I was not so happy. And I am fully aware that this is not the 1990s and this is not the Pokemon trading card game. I am fully aware of that, ladies and gentlemen. That has not slipped my mind. But I do think that it is very, very, very interesting that they've gone down this route. Because especially, and I'm talking about younger fans here and more casual fans, I am of the opinion, and I might not be right about this, as always, argue with me in the comment section, but I am very much of the opinion that I don't think most of them are going to want event cards. They want the cards of their favourite characters. And let's be clear, the artwork on this alternate art event card that we've seen is absolutely stunning. It is a beautiful piece of art, and I think it is absolutely fantastic. But are people going to want this over the characters? And I'm sorry, but especially to more casual and younger players, having a character rather than an event, it's a big deal. It makes a big difference. And I saw this 20 odd years ago, 25 years ago with the Pokemon TCG. And I do think it's going to be a similar thing here. I think people getting alternate art event cards out of their boxes rather than an alternate art leader or a character, I do think they're going to be a little bit disappointed. I have no proof of this. This is very much just my opinion. But I do think it's going to be a thing. Now, by the same token, if we're talking about alternate art event cards that are super duper playable and crazy and awesome, then yes. But again, you know, we've got no comparison to be made within One Piece, so we can go and have a look at the Pokemon trading card game, for instance, and we can look at a card like Quick Ball, which is a very, very playable card, which is a staple. In One Piece, you have staples for each color. In Pokemon, you have staples for basically every deck in the game. And Quick Ball fits in there, and the gold version has a really low pull rate, and that's like a $30 card. That's a very, very cheap card. Whereas we can see playable Pokemon, and they end up with much, much higher values. I'm not saying it's going to go, but I'm saying that is my worry. For me personally, if you're asking my personal opinion, and you know, it's my video, I suppose I better give it, I have no issue. I think this card looks absolutely stunning, and I would be more than happy to pull this from my box. As long as it's a playable card that I wanted and things along those lines. I have no problem with the event cards, but I have seen this in other games, and I really did think this was a discussion that was worth having. As for the card itself, because we do need to look at what it actually does, translation from myself / Rust Marrow, and we got a free cost red option card. You may discard one event from your hand, KO up to one enemy character with 5,000 power or less, and up to one enemy character with 4,000 power or less. And as a trigger, you just KO an opponent's character with 5,000 power or less. So kind of half of the card. And actually what you get here is KOing 2 characters for a free cost. And that could be KOing 2 blockers to get 2 extra attacks through. And if I'm KOing 2 blockers to get 2 extra attacks through, that is pretty awesome. The issue I've got, and I do believe it is a pretty big issue, you've got to have another event card in your hand to discard. Now, the actual effect of this card, I think, is genuinely stunning. I think the idea of being able to KO 2, admittedly weaker, but still, 2 of your opponent's characters in one go with one option card, I think is great. And I think this is a really good effect, or event card. And I do think it is going to be a really good card when you can get it working. And my issue with this very simply is, I am worried there are going to be too many games where I don't have an extra event card in my hand that I'm willing to discard. There are going to be too many games where it doesn't work. And I see that as a problem. The free cost isn't that much, that's fine. Turn 2, you're going to be able to play it if you need to. Although, to be fair, there probably won't be enough, targets on the board turn 2, but you could. And I like it as a card, and I like the trigger, but I am genuinely worried that this idea that you've got to discard an event card from your hand to use it is going to be a problem. Because if we look at the really good decks right now, they're playing event cards, but it's not like we're seeing 15 event cards per deck. We're seeing like 4 to 8, something in that range. Not even every deck plays event cards right now. So if I'm just putting 4 of these in, I'm probably not going to have 1 to play and 1 to discard. So how many other event cards am I going to play to try and get a decent chance of activating this? And what are my chances that I'm going to have the deck running like I want it to after filling it full of event cards? So I do think there is a lot of potential here, and I do really like the effect of this. But I do worry that it's just not going to fire often enough because I'm not going to have an event card to discard. And I do think it's a really interesting question as to how many people are really going to be happy pulling an alternate art event card versus an alternate art character or an alternate art leader. And maybe I'm exaggerating here. Maybe that was an issue back 20 years ago. Maybe it's not an issue now. Maybe One Piece fans are different. Maybe the artwork on these is so good that it's not going to be an issue. I honestly don't know. But I do think it's an interesting question, and it is one that I would very, very much like your opinion about. So let me know in the comment section, would you? Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk One Piece and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing is always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wasi Plays.